Let's talk about it. What is up, Finn fans? I was going to make a video talking about how there was about sources. I was going to make a whole video about sources. There's Jim Harbaugh sources, Mike McDaniel sources. Jordan Schultz came out and he said, Miami Dolphins interview spanned much of the day with Mike McDaniels, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And he put that out yesterday, and now he's backtracking because Chris Grier is not there, and they're not having the second interview with Mike McDaniel till Thursday. So then he's like, I never said it was yesterday, but, I was going to talk about all that. Now I'm not. Brian Flores is suing the Miami Dolphins. He's suing multiple teams. He's suing the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Giants. I don't think he's suing the Patriots. But he's suing also the Miami Dolphins. And I am a Miami Dolphin YouTuber. I cover the Miami Dolphins whenever news breaks or anything. So I'm going to mostly just talk about the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to talk about the the texting between him and Bill Belichick. But yeah, even Adam Schefter came out. Former head coach Brian Flores is suing the NFL, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos for allegedly racism in hiring. And he includes texts from Patriots head coach Bill Belichick in the suit as evidence. Lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court seeking unspecified damages from the NFL. It's it's crazy. Now, I don't think the racism technically I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not even going to try to act like I don't think blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to give you the facts. I'll tell you what I think about them. But let's get into the document. And if you go follow me on Twitter, at DouglieDoWrong. Follow me on Twitter. I retweeted all the information, all that stuff. But if you go to section 14, my phone is blowing up right now, so if I keep looking down, I do apologize. If you go to section 14, it talks about the Miami Dolphins. And it says, in January of 2022, Mr. Flores, who spent 3 years as the head coach of defendant Miami Dolphins, found himself without a job. He was fired by the Dolphins after leading the team to its first back-to-back winning season since 2003. Yes, it was fantastic. Thank you for that. But you also started us at 1-7, and it wasn't great. Also, there's other stuff that went along with his getting firing. But again, I don't know the information. But I find it funny that there's one side. There's always one side. The purported basis for his termination was alleged poor collaboration. That's what we've all heard. In reality, the writing has been on the wall since Mr. Flores' first season as a head coach of the Dolphins, when he refused his owner's directive to tank for the first pick in the NFL draft. Indeed, during the 2019 season, Miami owner Stephen Ross told Brian Flores that he would pay him $100,000 for every loss, and the team's general manager Chris Grier told Mr. Flores that Steve was mad that Mr. Flores' success in winning games that year was compromising the team's draft position. So again, to say that Brian Flores wanted to... Now, again, if you go back to that season, I did not think that the team was tanking. I did not think that Brian Flores was tanking. I did not think that the players were going to tank, because that is dumb. I never said that the owners and the GM didn't want to. But this just proves it from Brian Flores' side. This is him telling all his information, his story, because all the stuff that came out about him from the Dolphins. And again, sources. None of that stuff was from Ross or from Grier. And I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, the tanking was from the upstairs, and Flores said no. And apparently Stephen Ross was mad about that. This next part, though, is very interesting to me. Very, very interesting to me. And I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. At the end of the 2019 season, Mr. Ross began to pursue Mr. Flores to recruit a predominant quarterback in violation of league tampering rules. Mr. Flores repeatedly refused to comply with these improper directives. Undeterred, in the winter of 2020, Mr. Ross invited Mr. Flores on a yacht for lunch. Shortly after he arrived, Mr. Ross told Mr. Flores that the predominant quarterback was conveniently arriving at the marina. Obviously, Mr. Ross had attempted to set up a purportedly impromptu meeting between Mr. Flores and the prominent quarterback. Mr. Flores refused the meeting and left the yacht immediately. After the incident, Mr. Flores was treated with disdain and held out as some who would non-compliant and difficult to work with. That is incredibly interesting, if true. And again, if true. At the end of the 2019 season, Mr. Ross began to pressure Mr. Flores to recruit a prominent quarterback in violation of league tampering rules. We don't know who that quarterback is. And again, league tampering rules means that the quarterback was an NFL quarterback, not a college quarterback. So it doesn't mean that he asked Brian Flores to come on a yacht to meet Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa. That's not league tampering rules. Tampering rules involves free agents, involves NFL players, potential trade players. I don't know who it is. Stephen Ross, Brian Flores didn't say in this litigation, I think that's what it's called, who it was. I'm pretty sure we can all put two and two together. And the fact that this happened in 2019, end of 2019, early 2020, is very interesting. Again, I'm not going to say who it is. You can you can come to your own conclusions, but the fact that Stephen Ross was trying to trick Brian Flores into meeting that predominant quarterback and go against the league tampering rules and was tricking him as essentially as a child trying to trick his parents to get back together, I find very interesting. Again, I don't want to say who it is, but who have the Dolphins supposedly been trying to go after, and who has been linked to Stephen Ross and linked to Brian Flores, and that Brian Flores wanted this quarterback, and now Brian Flores is going to bring that quarterback wherever he goes. That's who I'm assuming it is. Again, I'm not going to say who, but this is damaging for the Miami Dolphins. This, and that's about it, I think they say on the Dolphins, because then they go back to the Giants. From this point forward, Flores was ostracized and was ultimately he was fired. He was subsequently defamed throughout the media and the league as he was labeled by the Dolphins brass as someone who is difficult to work with. This is reflective on an all too familiar angry black man stigma that is often casted upon black men who are strong in their morals and conviction, while white men are coined as passionate for their very same attributes. So essentially, again, he is upset and he thinks that he is getting... And we saw it happen. When Brian Flores got fired, just a wave of sources, information, and go back and watch my videos where I talked about it. I said, you can take what you want from it. You can believe it true or not. Again, I give you guys the information. I tell you what I think about it, and then I let you guys, come up with your own conclusions. But that's exactly what happened. Flores got fired, and all of a sudden, here comes the bum rush of stuff. Now, some of it is coincidental because he did have how many offensive coordinators. You had Josh McDaniels come out today saying the reason why I didn't do so well in Denver is because I was stubborn and hard-headed and hard to work with. Kind of seems like that's a Belichick thing. But the part where Ross was going to pay Flores $100,000 a loss, and that Ross was trying to trick Flores into meeting a prominent quarterback in violation of league tampering rules is incredibly interesting to me. And that can put Ross in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. He has a successor, and I'll talk about that in another video. He has a supposed successor to, the Miami Dolphins. Now, that doesn't mean that, Ross sells the team and it goes straight to him, but he has a successor. And I from what I'm looking at, the guy, it's another Stephen Ross. It's not a football guy. It's not a guy who loves football. It's another suit from New York, which I hate. I absolutely despise. But let's look at the text messages, though, real quick. Let's look at these text messages between Bill Belichick and Brian Flores. Sounds like you have landed. Congrats. That's from Bill Belichick. Did you hear something I didn't hear? That's from Brian Flores. Giants from Bill Belichick. You'll see it. I'll pop it up. I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it. Got it. I hear from Buffalo and New York that you are their guy. I hope it works out if you want to. That's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Dable? Just to make sure. Sorry, I effed this up. I double-checked and I misread the text. I think they are naming Dable. I'm sorry about that, BB. Thanks, Bill. I thought he was talking to Brian Dable, not Brian Flores. But again, that doesn't involve the Dolphins. What involves the Dolphins is the part that I told you about paying to tank and trying to violate the lead tampering rule by meeting a quarterback. You know who the quarterback is. I find this all interesting. How much of the stuff that is coming out is true? And again, that is where it goes to what I initially wanted to talk about with sources. Sources that Jim Harbaugh wants to go to Miami. He's using the Vikings as a scapegoat so that Stephen Ross doesn't feel like he's screwing over Michigan, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. There's that source. There's a source that says, oh, it's a done deal. It's going to happen. Harbaugh to Miami. You could book it. There's a source that said that, Mike McDaniel spent all day with the Dolphins and he killed it and said how he can change Tua. But then all of a sudden, I didn't mean yesterday, but you worded it all day instead of, that day or over a week ago when the first interview was with Mike McDaniel. Because now all of a sudden he phrased that. No one questioned him. Everyone was surprised by it. And all the news comes out saying, Chris Grier's in Senior Bowl. They're meeting with Mike McDaniel the second time on Thursday. Oh, I didn't mean yesterday. I never said yesterday. So this is a legal document. Now, I'm not saying Brian Flores can't lie on a legal document, but this is a legal document. He came out, he said his piece about tanking, about meeting, and about why he got fired. There's the other stuff that came out from sources. Difficult to work with, didn't like Tua, got into a fight with the locker room with Tua, favorited certain players over other players, yada, yada. There's also stuff that came out that players don't like Tua. Tua is a lazy worker. Tua golfed. Yeah, there's all of this information out there. What is true? We'll never know. But if this comes out and all of a sudden Brian and Stephen Ross gets in trouble, this seems to be true, especially with the tampering stuff. I just find it funny that all this stuff is happening. Now it's like, hey, Mike McDaniel. Hey, Jim Harbaugh. Hey, Kellen Moore. That seems to be the three candidates from the sources. Do you want this job still? Because apparently that's the owner you're going to be dealing with. And you got a yes man and Chris Grier who's just on Stephen Ross's butt. I talked about this in a video about how dysfunctional this organization is. And it's just more and more and more is coming out. Stephen Ross is trying his best, but he is not. Big O talked about it. We look at the Giants and what they said about Daniel Jones, Marr. The guys who, the family that owns the Giants, the family that owns the Steelers. Those are football families. Those are guys who know how to run a football organization. Those are guys who have multiple Super Bowls within the past 20 years. That's what the Dolphins need as an owner. Not a New York real estate mogul businessman who's going to come out and just say the political things and then behind the doors try to wheel and deal. Because you're wheeling and dealing with the wrong people, you're wheeling and dealing with the wrong things, and you're making the team worse. And if his successor takes over, it's nothing better. It's nothing better at all. It's like his friend from New York, who supposedly, and again, if it does happen, which I hope and pray somebody steps in that has football knowledge, that knows how to run a football team. But if it does happen, I'll make a video about it. Supposedly he's a Patriot fan. I'm telling you supposedly. That's something I heard. Again, if he does buy the team, I'll deep dive into it and find out if it's true or not. But Brian Flores is suing the NFL, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Denver Broncos. Supposedly with the Denver Broncos interview, I'll give you a little tidbit on that. Again, go follow me on Twitter. I retweeted the whole thing. You could read it. They came to the interview for him as head coach just disheveled, and they didn't even care. They're like, we're not gonna. Essentially, they used him for the Rooney Rule. No, we're just, yeah, sure. You want to come in for an interview? And it seems like he probably feels like the Giants did the same thing. They wanted Brian Daboll all along, and they brought him in for the Rooney Rule. It's messed up. It's messed up. If all this stuff is true, it's messed up. 100% messed up. That Rooney Rule is stupid in the aspect of people will do that to just satisfy that rule. If you don't know what the Rooney Rule is, you have to interview a minority for a head coaching position. Like if you're going out there and you're hiring head coaches, the Rooney Rule essentially is you have to interview at least one minority for that position. So they'll just pluck out a minority and interview just to satisfy the Rooney Rule and then push them aside and hire who they wanted. I hate that. I hate that so much. And I hate it because you're not giving the guy you're plucking out to satisfy the rule a fighting chance and actually listening. Because some of those guys are good coaches. Some of those guys, Mike Tomlin, become very good coaches, Super Bowl winning coaches. But you'll just plug them in there just to satisfy a stupid rule. Instead of looking at a bunch of candidates out there that are more than qualified to be head coaches that don't get chances. Why? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, say anything, but it's messed up. So more news breaks on this. I'll let you guys know. But from what I know now, Brian Flores is suing NFL, Denver Broncos, Miami Dolphins, and Giants. And I told you why they're suing the Dolphins, and I want to know who that prominent quarterback is, but I'm pretty sure we all know who it is. And the fact that Stephen Ross was tricking Brian Flores into meeting him at the end of the 2019 season in early 2020 goes against everything that we've been told about Brian Flores and that quarterback. I find it very interesting. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you if more news breaks. Again, we're not interviewing Mike McDaniel second time till Thursday, so I'll keep you guys updated on stuff. But other than that, guys, this is crazy. Love y'all. Stay classy. Unlike the organization, apparently. And fins up.